Theory of Adolescence by Celia Furlow, Isabel Balderson, and Stella Roth. Adolescence is defined by Merriam-Webster as the period of life when a child develops into an adult. As everyone knows, developing into adulthood calls for an extensive amount of responsibility and maturity. However, this development doesn't just include the preparation for such responsibility, it also includes the mental and physical growth of the individual. This new sense of independence, in addition to the occurring changes of adolescence, results in self-exploration. Although this may cause confusion and doubt for some individuals, it also causes contentment and joy for many others. Overall, most adolescents will feel a large variety of emotions. Adolescents' supposed extreme moodiness has resulted in many stereotypes, negative and positive. We hope that this image essay helps debunk such stereotypes and provides a good explanation for what occurs inside the mind of an adolescent. First, let's address some stereotypes about adolescence. One stereotype is that adolescents only care about going out with friends and socializing. In reality, adolescents spend a large majority of their time on schoolwork along with extracurricular activities to prepare them for the future. Another stereotype is that adolescents are too dependent on adults and are immature. In reality, 4.7 million teenagers have jobs, showing that teenagers are beginning to support themselves. This also shows the maturity level of teens, as they wouldn't be employed if they were immature. Many people believe that adolescents are lazy and unmotivated. However, the majority of adolescents participate in extracurriculars like sports and the arts. Adolescents tend to be very passionate when it comes to their interests and work very hard for a bright future. This goes hand in hand with the belief that adolescents dislike school and don't take their education seriously. Although school can be stressful, most adolescents work relentlessly to pursue their interests and to ensure their success, not to mention that they look forward to seeing their friends in class every day. Adolescents tend to be seen as disrespectful and inconsiderate. However, adolescence is when cognitive empathy begins to develop. This is where an individual has the ability to truly understand another perspective. Adolescents are very conscious of others, especially their peers. They tend to be more concerned than most in regards to how they are perceived and will most likely want to impress those around them. Many adolescents care tremendously about others and are very kind and respectful people. It is commonly believed that adolescents are easily distracted and cannot focus on more than one thing for an extended amount of time. However, adolescents have too much to focus on. We are forced to juggle multiple assignments, extracurricular activities, staying connected with friends and family, while remaining mentally and physically healthy. Most adolescents prove capable of doing what non-adolescents may consider the impossible. We are also thought of as shielded and uncultured. In reality, adolescents are exposed to a very diverse community and learn a lot about the world around us. Schools are integrated, and students learn through their peers about people's different backgrounds. With the help of technology, adolescents from all over the world have connected and shared their interesting cultures. Another misconception is that adolescents of today have it much easier than previous generations. However, academic performance has gotten much more competitive along with the expectations for extracurricular activities. If an adolescent is not taking honors or AP classes or does not participate in outside activities, they are considered underachievers or antisocial. Our final stereotype is that adolescents are reckless. Adolescents have been taught how to act responsibly and know the consequences if they don't do so. Most adolescents are responsible and will act accordingly for the well-being of themselves and others. Now that we've discussed some of the expectations and realities of adolescence, we will explain certain expected realities and their causes. Adolescents are typically viewed as self-absorbed because we tend to be very aware of what is occurring in our own lives and may seem less concerned about others. In an episode of the National Geographic show Brain Games titled Life of the Brain, psychologists and psychological researchers were called in to address what was really occurring inside the brain as it developed. This included the mind of adolescence and addressed why we do some of the things that we do. On the show, Vassar College psychologist Abigail Bayard explained the supposed selfishness and self-absorbed behavior is actually just self-exploration. At the beginning of adolescence, people experience a new sense of independence, and to cope with this, we become hypervigilant. We are exploring all the new options that we didn't have previously and therefore come off as egotistical and self-centered. In reality, adolescents have the ability to be just as considerate and aware of others as anyone else. Also featured on the Brain Games episode, Life of the Brain, was Temple University psychological researcher Jason Chine. He helps to explain the brain chemistry that causes teens to participate in supposed risky behavior. Chine said, right around the time of puberty, you see an increase in the amount of dopamine that's present in the brain's reward system. This new addition of chemicals in the brain urges adolescents to be more likely to take risks. The UCLA psychiatry professor Daniel Siegel explained the way the brain is changing really is urging them to try new things, to have an emotional spark that pushes them forward, a social engagement with their peers, a search for novelty where they are going to be taking risks, which unfortunately involves danger. However, this does not mean that all adolescents will act out in risky behavior. It only means that they are more likely to than non-adolescents. Adolescents are also known for being overly attached to technology like their phones, laptops, and tablets. Although this may be true, it is also true for the majority of the population in this current day and age. We live in a society that depends upon technology. According to a 2015 survey conducted by the American Speech Language Hearing Association, 68% of parents of 0 to 8-year-olds said that their child uses a tablet. 59% said that their child uses a smartphone, and 44% said that their child uses a video game console. The Pew Research Center stated in 2015 that 73% of adults in the U.S. own a desktop or laptop computer, and that 68% of U.S. adults have a smartphone. Adolescents of this generation grew up surrounded by technology, so it makes sense that most of us have become dependent on it. However, most people from previous generations are also guilty of this behavior, and it is expected that future generations will be as well. Most commonly, adolescents are viewed as overly emotional and dramatic. This may be true, however, there is a reason behind it. During adolescence, the brain begins to alter itself. Changes in the brain's chemistry begin in the lower fundamental area called the limbic system. The limbic system controls instincts, moods, and basic emotions. When changes are made to it, these emotions are heightened. As the brain and body continue to further develop, an abundance of hormones are also produced, which sway the moods and behaviors of adolescents significantly. Due to the psychological and physical changes taking place, adolescents are vulnerable towards the vast range of emotions that they will feel. Not to mention that many of the emotions that they will experience have never been experienced before, which will most likely increase the intensity of such emotions. Adolescents will typically appear overly emotional, but it is due to the many changes that are occurring. This was our overview of expectations versus realities of adolescence and explanations of expected realities of adolescence. As you can see, adolescence is an interesting time of change and self-discovery in an individual's life, and things are not always as they seem. Our theory is that it is a continuous stage of life from childhood that proceeds into the period of young adulthood. Because of this, not every aspect of adolescence was captured in this photo essay. Circumstances of adolescence will vary for each individual, but generally it will be the same, a confusing part of life filled with a large variety of emotions and experiences. We hope that you enjoyed our photo essay.